Drive and perseverance. Here are 4 examples of incredible drive and perseverance. Apple, goes without saying. I think this is a company that had tremendous creativity, fought hard against, first of all, conventional computers, then a new competitor, IBM. The famous ad in the Wall Street Journal where Apple put about a full-page ad on the day the IBM PC was announced, and it said, "Welcome, IBM, to the personal computer industry." Seriously. And that kind of perseverance today, the creativity with iPod and so forth, has paid off for that company. Unshakable conviction that it will work. I worked a great deal with Oracle and Larry Ellison in the early days, and the vision there was the vision that you could have a relational database that worked equally well across all hardware platforms. And IBM was doing DB2 on IBM, but everybody else needed a Unix version and so forth. And it was more Larry Ellison's will that it be done than any creative genius. He just said, it can be done. We'll develop a working relational database that is truly cross-platform. And eventually they did. And they sold it and convinced people that that was the mission, and it worked. Meticulous attention to detail is probably best exemplified by Apple, where Steve Jobs' brilliant industrial design of everything that Apple ever touched, down to the point of exactly which type fonts to choose for the Macintosh, or what colors to choose for the iMac. Steve Jobs today still involves himself intricately in those decisions, and he's got a flair for it. Relentless commitment to the customer. This is probably best exemplified by Intuit, where Scott Cook had his training at Procter & Gamble, where it was all about the consumer. And there's a book that was just published called Inside Intuit. How many of you have seen it? I commend it to you. It's a very interesting book. I've had an association with Intuit since 1991, and every part that I know is accurately reflected in the book. It's not always true in some of these startup books, but it tells about some of the tough times where the company literally was financed from Scott Cook's bank credit card a couple of times, where people went out without pay for months at a time. The entire company got together to ship the first product. It's just a wonderful story. Probably the most wonderful part for a Stanford student is Scott came with this idea of doing an electronic checkbook, but Scott was not technical at all and was not from Stanford. He was from SC and Harvard, and he didn't know the Stanford campus, so he was wandering around with an index card to put up on a bulletin board somewhere, and he found a kiosk in White Plaza, and he asked the first student passed by, where would be a good place to advertise for a programmer, for a company I want to start? And Tom Prue, a young engineering student, said, let me look at that, and said, you don't need to post this at all, I'll take the job. And that's how Tom Prue became a co-founder with Scott Cook of Intuit, and wrote the first version of Quicken. So keep your head up as you're walking around campus.